everyone, so in this video I'll be showing you some tricks about using horizontal containers, vertical containers. Containers help us to arrange our dashboard elements in a very precise order. For example, if you have similar text boxes, elements like text boxes, and you want them to be grouped together, you can put them in a single container and it gets it arranged. But this can be somehow frustrating if you do not want it doesn't align the way you want them to. So let's look at this side of this. You go to the dashboard menu. The layer part shows you the hierarchical order in which these containers are arranged. So for example, within the objects section, you have the horizontal, the vertical, then text, extensions, and so on. So tiled and floating containers, how do they work? So tiled, when we have it on tiles and you have the horizontal container, it just directs you to the position you should drop it, and there it goes. And if I want to pick another tight container, it doesn't allow my movement to be flexible. It just highlights the portion where I should be dropping it, and that's what we have in here. But for floating, from the name, it depicts that it's flexible. You can move it all around. You can put it in here, and you can decide to expand and tweak it to whatever position you want it to have to be. So why some people do not use floating is because sometimes it could move over from the position where you had put it in some device display. So if you want a precise position, if you want it to be immovable despite the device display, you could use floating. But some people want to be careful in how it is displayed on tablets or a different dimension of screens. So let's go to how to utilize tile. Tile could be somehow frustrating if you want to create hierarchical order in their arrangement. So I've dropped in a horizontal container in here, and I want to create 3 other containers inside this major one. So when I drag another container, so one thing about containers, horizontal containers allows you to arrange elements in a vertical order. You can see it as I highlighted that. But regardless, the first element you drop in to the third container determines how the other elements will lie. For example, if I drop this vertical inside the horizontal one, you could say it drops in here. It's at predetermined how I want the arrangement to be. So any other one I'll be dropping, we definitely come to the side of the container, not necessarily the upper part. So the first element determines in which order the other elements will lie. And one key thing I want to point out is that you should use borders in highlighting your containers, because you may not necessarily know which, if I come out of it, you wouldn't know how many containers have dropped in there except you move your mouse to see the highlights of the edges. So most times if you're a beginner, it's always good to have borders, tiny borders to highlight it. So you utilize borders to make your life or to make things easier. And once you move your mouse in there, these blue edges all around the container denotes that this particular container is highlighted. Once you come here, you can see the blue edges are also. So to get to the container in which these 2 horizontal containers are lying, let's come out of it to see 2 partitions, right? So to get the container, the horizontal container, which is these 2 vertical containers are in, you can see it's highlighting, but you need to double click. After clicking on one of them, you double click. That means it will take you to the next container in which they lie. So if you come out to the layer section, which shows you in visual representation of how this elements are arranged inside each other. The first one is a tiled, showing us that it's a tiled container. Then we have the horizontal container. Okay, so the horizontal container is the one we just highlighted. So this one, let's see if we can remove this. If I delete the container, it's going to delete everything. So this is a vertical container. So me putting in a vertical container inside it, you would see that, yeah, most times when you want to drop a container, it's going to highlight where you want to drop it. So it's showing me that I'm dropping it inside the vertical container, which I've already dropped it in there. So if I drop it inside here, you see it's inside the vertical container, and it keeps creating that hierarchy. So again, let's go back to see how it's done. So I have a vertical container, I have another vertical container inside. So to get to this vertical container, I need to double click this. You can see it's highlighting. So when I put in my border as, let's say, orange, okay, the outer vertical container is orange. When I put this, click on this, you can see that the orange is not showing. However, it's highlighting this vertical container. So I'm going to make this border, for example, green. So you wouldn't know. You can see slight orange and you can see green inside there. This outside one is the tiled one. So you can see the hierarchy. Let's make this blue. The hierarchy, or let's make it red. So another thing to see in a visual representation, because everything is lying on each other, you could come in here and utilize the outer padding. So you could see that here you've created space between the green vertical border and the orange vertical container. So when I double click the green one, it has taken me to the orange one. So I can actually do the padding as well. You can see that the orange is, yeah, so this is orange. Let's double click, this is the green one, the orange. Let's create the outer padding, not the inner padding. You can see that the orange has a space in between with the red. So this gives you a visual representation of the three containers we have in there. There's another one in here, funny enough. Okay, that's the green one. So although it's showing me blue and it is far away from the green, but we're still highlighting the green. So don't let it get confused. We have three containers in here, and this is for selection. Selection means you have the blue edges all around it, so it's selecting the green. But because of the outer pattern, it shows spaces in there. However, do not be deceived, it's selecting the green. When I want to select the orange, I double click, it takes me to the orange. When I want to select the red, I double click, it takes me to the red, even if the highlight is above it. So you can use borders in outer padding to really visualize, and then create your element inside, drop in objects inside, and remove the padding later. So, but what I really want to touch on again is, if you do not just want to keep creating hierarchies upon hierarchy, you want to drop it in the green container by the side. How do you go about this? Because, for example, using this tiled, and I want to drop horizontal container in the red vertical container, not the inner one. What does it do? So, for example, see, it takes me to the green border, but I do not want the green border. I want it to be on the outer border, and it keeps directing me. It keeps directing me. Oh, drop it here, drop it here, drop it in here. If I drop it here, you can see it starts taking it far to the vertical level. Do you understand? But I want to drop it into the vertical container, not on the same level, but inside this vertical container. So how do I go about it? If I delete it and go back again and I say drop it in here, it's not taking me to the orange one, it's taking me inside the green. You can see it has dropped it inside the vertical one, and it keeps going and going. So how do you go about it? Most times, sorry about that. Let me remove this. No. So most times people use keep deleting everything. So those are the things. So let's see if we can remove from here. Remove container. You can actually remove there if it keeps frustrating. So most times people do use, or you can use blank to create a demarcation. Before you create that border, you just create a blank in here, and I'll create another blank. So now I've successfully created 2 blanks inside the vertical container. Okay, we can actually now, let's see if we can delete this one. You can see it has removed that one, and it has taken us to the orange container. So if you do not want it to can come there and remove, then create 2 blanks in here and say, okay, now that I have 2 blanks, I can actually put a border and see if I can put in a horizontal, or let's say vertical in there. Okay, let's use a horizontal inside there. You can see my blanks are in here, so I can actually see what I've created, and I can demarcate the orange border. You can see, and I want to create another vertical container inside, not inside this one but inside this one. So after I've been able to do that, I will just create. You can see it should go in now. I have 2 horizontal. You can see this and this in there, like I put a border. So it makes life easier by you removing the excess one that you do not want from here, if it keeps giving you hierarchy. And for it not to keep going that way, just create a blank to create spaces in there. Then you can actually see where you can do the dropping. And let's create another vertical container or horizontal in here, and I can actually put it here. Then I have 3 of my elements. You can see everything in here and keeps going. So in this inner one, if I decide to create 3 other vertical containers, see if I decide to do this and I do this as well, it could give me a lot of issues, but now it's easier. You can see it as demarcated it, and you'll be able to see that I have 2 elements in there. I'll put in border and put in another border in here, so you can see that the hierarchy becomes easier. These 2 vertical are inside the main horizontal. All right, so if this keeps going on and on, you could decide to use the floating object as well. Floating could make life easier for you. You can switch to floating, and then you can actually use your shift button to drop in the element you want. Let's see, it's going in here, and then let me see if I can drop another one in here. You see, so hold down the shift button, and there you go, and it keeps creating hierarchies for you. So if you find the tiles is difficult, you can use floating. Then you hold down the shift button and you drop and keep creating tiles upon tiles. So the key things for this video: use borders, different colors to demarcate, use outer padding to really visualize what you see, and do not forget outer padding could be deceitful if you highlight it, because the highlight is showing at the end, at the outside of the border, but it's highlighting the one because of the outer padding. You may think is a different one, but just take note of that. So after using outer padding, you could use blanks to hold in some spaces and drop in whatever you want. And in case all the hierarchies have been created and you do not, you want to remove it, then you can decide to remove containers, and it gives you what you want. And also use floating objects and use the shift button by holding it down. So I hope you find this video helpful, and happy selling, happy dashboard creation. Bye bye.